Hello, and welcome to the Digital Workspace Works podcast. I'm Ryan Purvis, your host, supported by our producer Heather Bicknell. In this series, you'll hear stories and opinions from experts in the field, stories from the front lines, the problems they face and how they solved them, the areas they focused on from technology, people and processes, to the approaches they took that will help you to get to the grips with the digital workspace inner workings. The Digital Workspace Works podcast. Do you want to tell us a bit about yourself?
Thank you so much for having me here, Ryan. Hello, everyone. I'm Sarbani Bose, Managing Director of Ei Square Ltd. I have 20 years experience in digital transformation, more recently with Virgin Media in their multi-million pound mobile transformation program, looking after their data reporting and controls work stream. So helping all business intelligence reports and tools for every customer facing departments. Data analytics, digital transformation is my area of expertise. At Ei Square, we assist organizations to become more mature in their data-driven journey. So we help them to bring data at the center of their decision-making process.
Oh, fantastic. And, just for the benefit of everyone else, what do you think the digital workspace means to you?
I think first and foremost, digital workspace is more about an organization's or team's culture. How do they adapt or take on board the evolving technologies that are in place? How do they make most use of the technology that they are currently using? And be open-minded to utilizing the technologies. And also from this connected workplace, digitally connected workplace, how do we make the best use of the technology? So that's digital workspace, is having that open mind, being receptive and not being frustrated in getting yourself to a position where you may find yourself to be more challenged. So that's what digital workspace mean for me.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, that friction.
Yes.
To getting able to work, that's a key thing to be rid of. Obviously we haven't talked about this in detail, but you mentioned the customer-facing tools.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, are you talking about things like CRM and call center tools or other stuff as well?
Every department has their own set of tools. So to have a data is centric to those tools. So a sales department might look into their, the customer CRM, for example. The marketing will look into their campaigns and see how the return on investment on the campaigns are looking, or which campaigns are more successful. So every department has tools that they use to benefit their functional space to be more effective. And that's what I mean by customer facing tools. They could have their own choice of the tools, but whatever tools they are using, making data as the centric in terms of driving the efficiency of the department is quite important.
Yeah, I'm thinking about the complexity of that. If you've got multiple tools that store data specifically in specific ways, first name is not necessarily first name. It could be, name. How would you approach that with the customer? What would be the sort of starting point?
So the first thing we do is a data strategy piece. So say, for example, depends on which department commissions the project. Data strategy piece looks into what exactly they would like to get out of the project. So for example, let's take an example of the CRM and the customers and the misalignment of the fields. So the customer data might not necessarily be only in their CRM database. Some might come through third-party data, or the marketing team might be looking at a potential customer's data, and that may be interest in another department, cross-functional team. So the data strategy would be to bring all these different data points from different softwares, different third party together, keeping quite in focus of the of the end goal the customer commissioned the project for. So in this instance, we are talking about, a customer's data, the misalignment. You go through that strategy piece of bringing all the customer data across from different departments into a single place, and then look into the data management function of it, accessibility, reliability of information, timeliness of information to the different departments, and then implementing that function to make sure that your customer name, your standardization is in place. So all the people within the organization receives the exact detail of the data and understands that data point correctly. So standardization of a particular surname being in that field and has to be like that. So the governance, the tools that go with it. So having that standardization process through it as a part of the implementation of that strategy piece.
Yeah, I mean, I've been through a few of those in previous roles, and it's not a trivial thing to do, specifically when you get into master data management and figuring out, if your golden source is going to be golden, what feeds that, and making sure that you've got, integrity of that data.
Absolutely. And we talk a lot about, the single version of the truth having that single version of the truth. I mean, you could have multiple, the one set of data showing different versions depending on your audience, but the base foundation should be a single version. So like I was talking about, the marketing might need the success of a campaign to be one metric, but the CMO might want to see the ROI on that campaign. So it's what you show to the target audience based on the foundational data being the single version of truth.
Yeah, I totally get that. And I think, I think about some of the stuff I've done previously, your challenge is not so much that each division has their own tools, is that the humans tend to work outside of those tools.
Yes.
Because the tools tend to be too restrictive, because the tools don't develop or aren't as flexible as the workplace is. So a process can't change quick in the tool quick enough. So the human works out a way to cheat the process to get the job done.
Absolutely. And we have seen time and time again. That's why culture is very important. And handholding clients, there is always that reluctance to going back to digital workplaces. There's always that reluctance to try and go out of one's comfort zone. So the culture, making the customers believe and empowering them with the tools in not a geeky way, but in a very business sort of way, in making them understand the data the way they understanding, hand holding them to the point that they feel comfortable that these tools are helping them to be more efficient rather than is a hindrance. And I mean, data strategy, digital transformation fails because we don't look into the culture element quick enough, or do not put focus enough on that.
Yeah, and I think that comes down to having good executive sponsorship as well. Mm-hmm. You need top-down buy-in and support to break down some of the bureaucracy of an organization.
Yes. Yes.
Which is fine if you're in a smaller business necessarily where it's a little flatter, but when you get into these corporates that have, many towers and the data is flowing across towers.
Yes.
We're trying to get the data to flow across towers.
And that's one of the, sorry to interrupt, Ryan, and that's one of the job for the CDOs to be more strategically placed in terms of adding that value of the information to be a value of the corporates. It should be centrally placed as an information is an asset to the corporate strategy, and it's not just an IT function.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned the title CDO, and you don't see many CDOs.
No, you don't. That is again because it is still information is not considered an asset in the corporate strategical world. It is. I read an article where Gartner says there's only 50% you will see within the corporate strategy that information is mentioned as an asset, whereas they expect by 2022, 90% will start speaking of it and putting that in their corporate strategy. There is not enough CDOs, absolutely. And by that same article, 30% will only talk or bring the information into their corporate strategy by 2022. And the CDOs will be central when it comes to getting the data to bind with the corporate strategy.
Do you think that's because the sort of legacy of building solutions in the environment has made it so complicated to bring the data together? There's almost a fear factor of doing it, or do you think it's something else?
I have a feeling because I think the business and IT were very separate. If you want to bring data to be aligned with the corporate strategy, I don't think it can be told as this is an IT function. It is a collaborative function to reach to that end goal. I would say you need more of business input than IT input to reach that end goal. And because of that hard wall present between business and IT, that is where I think it has failed to bring the data central.
Yeah, I mean, as I say, previous roles, I've seen that exactly. It's almost an over-the-fence exercise sometimes where the business wants to do something, IT needs to just do it. Or the business gets tired of waiting for IT to do it because IT has too many priorities. Mm-hmm. They go do it themselves. And then they can't work out why they can't get it to work with any other systems inside because, it becomes a religious war as opposed to a collaborative exercise.
Absolutely. And the one tells the other, but as I see it, it is not either the businesses or the ITs, it is a collaborative team. Yeah. Any successful data projects cannot be delivered to the requirements of the business without a proper input from the business.
Yeah, so I mean, if you were to look at the landscape now, sort of 2020, and you mentioned 2022, I mean, what do you think with COVID in mind and all that next year will look like for many companies in the digital realm?
I think the traditional way of marketing has been put on hold to some extent. Yeah. People will try and get more out of the data that they currently collect. People will focus a bit more on their less engaged customers. People who have been accumulating or running businesses with data for a long time will try and focus a lot on the data front. And pandemic has just accelerated that. Pandemic has just brought to the forefront process efficiency, digitally being more connected, remote working, enabling remote working. So imagine not only just utilizing the tools that are there as a result of, virtual working. After you have established an infrastructure of virtually working in a clever way, in a smarter way, people will then start to think, how can we best utilize it more? How can we drive it better? And I think that's what's going to happen. Talk of office spaces, talk of your VoIP systems. People will start to dig more into their first party data. Yeah, it's an interesting thought. I mean, you mentioned VoIP and that. I mean, the thing that I was thinking about the other day is that once upon a time, unified comms was meant to be a one number connect you to any device. Mm-hmm. That's almost now happened where and it's not just one app, but there's multiple apps that someone can communicate with you on, and you can handle your business on. In fact, in some cases, it's easier and quicker to handle your request via WhatsApp business or a chat bot of some sort that can answer the first easy couple questions and then go into you talk to a human when that can't answer it. And that sort of feeds into your data being used to make decisions, because based on those interactions through a very controlled channel, you get the data with data on being measured through that process. You can channel
investment to improve that customer experience.
Absolutely. So that has almost happened, but I don't see enough of people then utilizing the accumulation of data to increase the customer experience or to reach out to less engaged people. The corporate side are using it, the bigger corporates, the SME world, not so much.
But I think it comes down to resources. You need people to look at that kind of stuff. You need your data scientists. You need, well, not even data scientists per se, just someone looking at the data.
Absolutely. Looking at the data and extracting value from that data.
Yeah. Is that where you guys come in?
Yes, absolutely. So there are a couple of things we come in from. First of all, strategy point, where people have not necessarily placed all the data that they collect in a unified platform for scalability purposes as well. That is the first point. And the second point is analyzing that data and extracting value from that data.
And what's a typical project look like in the sense of timeframes? And I mean, you don't necessarily give me investment figures, but what is your sort of common or your sweet spot, let's say?
Our sweet spots are first going through and building the strategy and then implementing it. Anywhere from 6 months to 9 months, our projects last, a data strategy and implementation project.
Okay. And are you making quite a lot of use of the cloud to deliver solutions?
We are mostly cloud.
Okay. Has that changed now? As the cloud has become more and more prevalent, is the technology making the implementations easier?
I would not say easier, because you have challenges everywhere. Technologically, even on cloud, you have challenges. I think from a client's perspective, it definitely has given them the flexibility where they do not need to cater or think about the infrastructure support or a support being maintained constantly. They just need to pay for the scalability purpose. And so that has definitely become easier. There are challenges irrespective whether you go cloud or on-premise. But no, I think the main challenges we definitely face in terms of our projects is getting hold of the data that they use in a timely fashion.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because I was just thinking, because the technology in the cloud environment has improved a lot. In fact, you've got a different problem. I think there's too much choice. Too many options that are so similar that you have to, almost, you feel like you're going to make a mistake because you don't know exactly which one to use. But then once you made that decision, it's about getting the data. And having worked with some systems that didn't come with APIs, for example, you got to figure out getting the data out of that using various techniques and mechanisms.
Exactly.
Yeah. So we talked about the data and making decisions. I mean, are you providing? Are there mechanisms or ways to show people ways to make decisions with data, or are you looking at some sort of operational intelligence that's, say, using rules to automatically make decisions?
Not automatically make decisions. We bring the data to help them make those decisions, to analyze the data from the strategic point, put those metrics in front to help them make decisions, not automatically. So we haven't gone towards the AI implementation of use cases. But for example, the customer churn per channels, that helps them refocus their energy on the certain channels where the churn rate is more. It is assisting businesses to refocus their energy where it will drive most revenue or cut costs.
And in that, I mean, the churn model, I would almost think is one of those models that could be sold as an asset, an algorithm that you on a marketplace. Is there something that you're seeing in the marketplace now that people are selling the algorithms, or is it still very much everyone builds their own?
Everyone builds their own. What I am seeing is everyone builds their own. There are bigger corporates who are already, putting AI use case on the churn models. I don't think I have come across where somebody's selling a churn model.
Yeah, it's interesting. So you'd almost think that would be the natural, one of these big providers would say, here, use our recommendation service or use our churn model service, and they just pump your data. Because for the SME, they don't have the capacity to go build their own churn model. And they're looking for something to put on their credit card.
Yes, it may be down the line. You never know. It may be in a few years' time with all AI and machine learning and a lot of businesses using a lot of AI clever tools there. I will not be surprised if we see a churn model come up, which could be customizable depending on the sector, depending on particular industry, particular team.
No, definitely. Let's maybe change tack a little bit. So you've been, are you guys office bound, or you work from home, or how's your business been affected?
Right. We were office bound until March. Very flexible ways of working. We don't have any rules in terms of you need to be in the office 5 days a week, 9 to 6. We don't have such rules at all. I like the consultants to be present 2 to 3 days a week in the office, but from April we are homebound, and we will be so till at least Q1 of next year. We have a very flexible virtual open door policy. We meet regularly, we talk regularly. So one of the things as a manager I had to go through during the initial lockdown period was to not able to understand the body language when I'm talking to our team of consultants, what's bothering them. The normal office coffee machine talk and the informal chats gave a lot of things behind the person, behind what's going on outside of the work. And that was a journey I had to navigate during the initial days. The decision not to go back to office till March is because we navigated that quite well. Our virtual open door policy is really working very well. So we are all cloud-based, so I don't think we will go back till March for sure. And we have not been impacted by not having an office.
Sorry, she wanted to contribute.
That's okay.
Yeah, that's a common trend that I'm seeing amongst most businesses, is that the need to have an office is almost redundant. And you're going to book co-working space, or you're going to book a meeting room for the day once a week, and everyone will come meet in that place and use it for a purpose as opposed to. I
wouldn't say it's redundant because I think, like I said, the buzz of the place, talking to people, that will not go away. I would not go as far to say it is redundant, but like I said, during the pandemic, it hasn't impacted working remotely or working flexibly. I think going forward, you would definitely see a lot of the SME businesses take up co-working space, like you said. And also, it depends on business to business. Some businesses, when you're onboarding employees, your culture, your ethics, the morals, everything else, and how do you make them feel part of the team? All of that together, I think, will decide whether one needs to have a permanent office or not. I'm loving her.
It's okay, my girl. I think she's being too hot on me.
She's lovely.
Yeah, I think you're right. When I say it's redundant, I think there are businesses that can operate pretty much without one, provided they've got some way to meet.
Absolutely. I mean, look at us now. We are operating very well without having an office. And there will be businesses going forward who wouldn't need an office at all. No, please, don't worry at all. But I think it is. I think it really is a personal case by case that will take effect whenever we come to a normality, whatever that may look like. And it won't be a generic as to one end or the other, as to you be completely virtual or completely office based. Definitely, it will trend more towards co-working and virtual and flexible. Right.
Sorry about that. We are.
No, don't be at all.
Well, I said sorry in the sense that she's now been fed, so it's all good.
Oh, good. You were doing so well.
Yeah, she's actually been quite good most of the day. It's just, when we get to this sort of time of the day, she starts getting a bit antsy. I think it's normal.
Yes. Is she sleeping through the night?
We're getting about 5 hours now.
Wow, that's good.
Yeah, not bad for 6 weeks. I mean, my son was nothing like that. He was about 15 months was like every 3 hours he was awake. So this is quite good.
I had a different, my son was okay. He's the eldest one, but my daughter, oh my God, I didn't sleep till 2-3 years. I didn't sleep. So 5 hours, blimey, that's a blessing.
Yeah, no, I'll take it. I mean, she goes to bed about 10 and then wakes up about, say 10:30, then gets up about 3:34, which is actually quite nice because then I get up and I go to work and I do my stuff, and because I've got another son another toddler, and obviously working from home. Once he's up and about, and if he's not in nursery, he needs to be looked after. So between my wife and I, it's a lot of double teaming.
Yes, yeah.
So.
And like we were talking about work environments and working, and this is one of the things that has, it's a shame that pandemic has to bring this on, but getting closer to your colleagues' personal life and having that personal touch is quite nice. Do you see in Zoom calls, people, the kids come and sit, or the cat is coming over, and it's nice. They, at the end of the day, everybody's a human being. You sometimes, when you are on that mill machine and working, it's sometimes difficult to realize when all the time you're thinking about projects, deliveries, stakeholders, meetings, and everything else. Sometimes it's easy to forget we are all human beings trying to get on with our lives as well.
Yeah, we do become a bit robotic, and it's almost the minute you leave home and you get to the office, you're in this go, just do it mentality. Whereas now you've got to be integrated. You've got to, do a call and make lunch and, whatever else you got to do with the family, while still being results. In fact, it's almost more results oriented as opposed to putting the hours in.
Yes. I don't know why, organizations or business don't think of being more results oriented, to be honest. They should. Everything should be. I know, sales team gets commission based on the sales. I think everybody should have results oriented approach. And yeah.
Yeah, I think a big factor that is obviously you mentioned before is culture, but it's also trust. And understanding that some people will work differently, and they'll work at night and not during the day, and vice versa.
Yes, and it is both ways, isn't it? The trust should be both ways. I am really proud of the way we work. It's a small team, but I'm really proud because nobody has to be micromanaged. You give responsibility to the people of their work, and they own that piece of work to be delivered. So. And trust builds that way. You got to trust the person. I'm not saying you wouldn't come across that odd occasion where it just doesn't line up, but that is how the person is. There's nothing personal in it. It's just the personality and how you work.
Yeah, definitely. No, look, and I think as you say, we've become a bit more insightful about colleagues and how they work and their family lives and all that. And we were talking about how the office is potentially redundant. For a lot of people that don't have the space, it's not redundant. They need to have an office to go to, or a co-working space, or whatever it is to go,
Absolutely. And the mental health that comes with it, if you think about the office working, gosh, that feels like ages ago, right? It's only been about 9 months. But if you think about that, you just, you're doing a piece of work, you turn around and you just hear a very interesting conversation going on. And you miss that. And that creates a dialogue or conversation that can, keep you refreshed. And that's little breaks from your regular work makes a lot of difference.
Yeah, buffers. You need to have buffers. And that's, I think, what a lot of people have struggled with. I definitely have struggled with it, without having, as much as you don't like the commute. And I think the word hate is probably a bit more descriptive. But it is an important part of your day in the sense that you've got time to yourself, you've got time to think, you've got time to read, you've got all that. Whereas if you're at home, you're blending home activities with work activities. You don't have those buffers. And then also you have people, your calendar gets filled up with meetings because that's how people interact. Mm-hmm. You must spend the whole day talking to people on the phone because your diary's full.
Absolutely. And that line, you get up in the morning and you go to that office. That time you take to travel is your time, is your personal time. Coming back again, that time is your personal time. And that gave a very nice break between your personal and your work life. That got blurred as well in this pandemic. And not everybody is quite strict in stopping work. People are working long hours. And that will have different effects mentally as well as physically.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard various tips and tricks, and I don't know what yours are, but things like if you in order to break up the Monday to Friday versus the weekend, you got to watch different TV. So you watch movies on weekends and you watch series during the week, and also having different you set out different clothes for the weekend, just so you know that now it's the weekend, even though you're pretty much wearing similar stuff. I don't know what you do to.
Well, the clothes thing has always been there, so there's no change. I'm quite strict in actually getting up, and even though it's just one room to the study or to another room for the office space, I'm quite strict in the dressing up sense. But I think I still forget the day during the weekdays. Especially with the half term, when the school started. Before it was difficult because the kids were homeschooled, so you wouldn't know from Monday to, and then it got better from September, and now the kids are on half term. I was thinking today whether it is Wednesday or Tuesday. So I think a day of the week. I sometimes have to keep revisiting the calendar to see, yes, it is Wednesday.
No, the same. I did that yesterday. I was actually, this is actually only Tuesday, because I thought it was definitely Thursday. It happens to the best of us. I'm pretty much done I think we have some great content. Is there anything else you want to talk about?
I wanted to talk about maybe what do you think in terms of the SME sector, and how do they see the data being a value addition to their strategy piece? And what do you see when you talk to other organizations?
So, it's actually a good question. So typically when I talk to an SME, unless their business is built around data, they don't typically value it. Mm-hmm. And it's almost, the perpetual problem of they need to make revenue, so they focus on making revenue, and they do it the hard way. And this is probably very unfair, but they, when the opportunity is to take a step back and look at what they've got and fix certain processes and internal operational things to make it easy. I'll give you an example. You've got a software as a service product that's been built. It has a user management component to it, but they've got a separate CRM and they've got a separate billing system, and none of those systems talk to each other. Mm-hmm. And things like managing the contracts, managing the support of the customer, managing the account management of those customers, all those things are handling different silos, and it makes it that much more harder or more difficult to do it. And the argument will always be, well, it's fine because all I have to do is work on my Excel spreadsheet and I can get away with it. But there's no sort of thought to go, well, if you have an Excel spreadsheet and you have to do a recon and figure out where you were, and that 5 minutes, that 10 minutes adds up to the point that maybe your investment in doing the right thing, inverted commas, is cheap in comparison to how much you're wasting. And that problem perpetuates. It's fine maybe when you've got one salesperson, but when you've got 5 salespeople and five salespeople that are in different countries, dealing with different things, and there's no uniformity, which is what those tools will do. They'll force uniformity, which is also a bad thing in some senses. But you get what I'm saying in the sense that by breaking down the core process of your business, and there's only 3 to 5 per business, if you get those things right and efficient, it makes other things easier and you get time back.
Exactly. And this I think needs to happen quite at the start of the process. So a thought in the business plan already should be about how do they accumulate, store data and use data going forward. That should already be in their business plan of any SME startups going forward. This is one of the reasons why I am so passionately driving Ei Square, mainly driving awareness to the SME sector, because having worked in the corporate world for the last 20 odd years, they are very good in understanding what data can bring. They invest heavily. They are much more messier because of the amount of different systems they have. But they do understand the value. And this is one of the things I do like to talk about, is the awareness of what data can do to the SME sector.
No, yeah, you have it right. I think it is something that, if you look at what the pandemic has forced, not only has it forced everyone to use technology and to catch up to what technology people were doing anyway, typically, but it has also forced people and companies in probably a negative way to let people go, and those people have had to start their own businesses. So there's a lot more micro entities becoming SMEs, and that point is getting, if they understand that as part of their foundations, makes it easier to operate, because I think all the tools are there. I don't think.
No, absolutely. The tools are there. And even businesses who go through that digital transformation, right? They want to reduce their usage of spreadsheets. They want to reduce and effectively gain more insight from the data that they have been collecting. They need to, as they're going through the transformation program, they need to seriously think about the data strategy that will play a role going forward. And this is something we highly encourage any discussions we have with our clients about getting the strategy piece right.
No, you're 100% right. Where can people get hold of you? Social media or?
Yes. So LinkedIn, you can get hold of me on LinkedIn, Sarbani Bose or Ei Square. If you go to eisquare.co.uk, you can get hold of us as well.
Fantastic. It's been great having you on the podcast. Thank
you so much. Thanks, Ryan. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. Heather Bicknell is our producer and editor. Thank you, Heather, for your hard work on this episode. Please subscribe to the series and rate us on iTunes or the Google Play Store. Follow us on Twitter @the DWW Podcast. The show notes and transcripts will be available on the website www.digitalworkspace.works. Please also visit our website www.digitalworkspace.works and subscribe to our newsletter. And lastly, if you found this episode useful, please share with your friends or colleagues.